Hi, I'm Fran Sisco, and I'm here with David Juhren, a leader in the LGBT community, and Noam Bramson, who's running for county executive of Westchester County, population of nearly 1 million people. So we have a few questions to ask of Noam from the perspective of the LGBT community. And the first question that we're going to ask you, Noam, is what do you see as the top 3 priorities on how Westchester County can help the LGBT community?
Well, first of all, Fran, let me say it's a pleasure to be with you, and a pleasure to be with you also, David. I'm really glad to have this conversation. And I do think there are a number of critical priorities that the county really can address, and not just for the LGBT community, but with the LGBT community, and that's really the more important way to look at it. So first, we have an LGBT advisory board right now in place with some really good and dedicated people who are members of it. But I don't think there's been enough of a structured and inclusive process for ensuring that the recommendations and perspectives of that advisory board actually find their way into county policy. And so utilizing the talents and experiences of those volunteers and really establishing clearer goals for how we can make sure Westchester is more inclusive, how we celebrate the individuality of all of our residents. I think that would be one thing that I would focus on. Secondly, I think it's important that in service delivery there be a good degree of cultural sensitivity and understanding to make sure that county officials are able to engage in all sorts of situations in a way that is fully respectful of the people that we serve. And thirdly, I'm of the view that leadership is not just about the laws we pass, it's also about the values that we uphold, that we advocate for, that we celebrate. And for me, the idea that all of us are fully deserving of respect and inclusion is really at the heart of my concept of public service. So I was very proud, for example, to support New York State's marriage equality law. And I think the story of our country, at its best, is of always expanding the definition of who's us and reducing the definition of who's them. Realizing that we're all human beings and that when we have a chance to express who we are, it just adds to the richness of everybody. And I think that's a principle that really needs to be advocated by everybody.
Well, I applaud you on that. Thank you for making that clear. And is it a long-standing belief of yours that other people from various different persuasions, from the LGBT community as well as people of color, and is that a long-standing belief that you've held?
It is.
Is there anything in your New Rochelle experience as mayor that you can point to?
Well, I think the principle that I mentioned a moment ago is something that was really instilled in me from a very young age. Both of my parents were immigrants, and they were refugees during the Second World War. And so they had a very direct, personal, and painful experience with the cost of discrimination, of racism, of inequality of any kind as an expression of government policy. And I think through that experience they came to have a particular understanding and a particular appreciation, as immigrants often do, of the freedoms and values that sometimes we take for granted. And so growing up, absolutely, I was always taught that you treat everybody with respect, you recognize you know better than anybody else, that we're all equal, that we're all human beings, and there was never a moment when that principle was not upheld by my parents. And certainly having the opportunity to govern New Rochelle now as its mayor, one of the cardinal virtues of our city is its enormous diversity by every measure. Not just racial and ethnic and all the other things we think of as demographic characteristics, but also socioeconomic status and so forth. And I've seen through my experience here as a resident and as a leader, the degree to which that diversity improves everybody's life and makes the community engaged and interesting and helps us to better understand each other. And I'll say one of the really nice things about being mayor is that you can perform marriages, and I've had the pleasure of performing same-sex marriages as well as other marriages. And what I've come to understand through that is that they're all just marriages. You have two people who are absolutely loving and committed to each other, filled with joy as they think about a life together, surrounded by family and friends, and it really does drive home the degree to which the things that we all want out of a good life, the things that we hope we will encourage in each other are the same for all of us, and we're best off when we adopt that perspective.
And this is a trend, it seems, happening among a number of people coming to a better understanding of diversity and the importance of diversity and inclusion.
I think that's true, and I think that's always positive. And you certainly do see it not only in changes in law, but in polling data. You see it anecdotally as more people come to better understand and appreciate their neighbors and fellow citizens.
Thanks for sharing.
Noam, I hear a lot from the individuals within the LGBT community that the Westchester Human Rights Commission seems to, over the past couple of years, have its relevance relegated to a back closet, if you will. What would your administration do to bolster the Human Rights Commission here in Westchester, make it stronger, make it reflect and represent and protect individuals such as the LGBT community, other ethnic groups? What would your administration do to help strengthen that?
Well, first, let's back up so everyone understands the importance of the Human Rights Commission. It really is designed to be a more accessible form of justice, because the alternative, if it does not exist, is either you're going to do a state process that can be more distant, slower, less available, or through court proceedings that can be expensive and, for many people, not really a realistic source of confronting discrimination. So the establishment of the Human Rights Commission a number of years ago was actually spearheaded, as I recall, by Andrea Stewart Cousins when she was still a member of the County Board of Legislators, and now she's a state senator. It was really to make sure that when discrimination occurs, that the victims of that discrimination have an opportunity to have their complaint heard and have it resolved in a fashion that makes sense. So if we are not providing adequate support for that process, either at a staff level or through administrative law judges, if the county is not committed to taking complaints about discrimination seriously, if appointments are being made for individuals who may not have the sensitivity to appreciate and understand and resolve complaints, then the quality of justice is diminished. And so I would, as with all appointments, not just the Human Rights Commission, I'd always want to be making sure that the people I have the authority to appoint to positions of responsibility have the qualifications, have the perspective, have the commitment to their duties that will ensure that they uphold their responsibilities in the best possible way. And based on everything that's been said to me, with respect to the Human Rights Commission, it does seem that there is.
Thank you. As a leader, as county executive, you can't have as direct an impact, perhaps, to improve the life of an LGBT person, but you can have a lot of indirect impact, and you can show your leadership on the side of inclusion of an LGBT person for a job, to deal with perhaps homelessness or someone in a poor situation and discrimination. So are you willing to be in the media eye and take a higher profile for your stance for more diversity and inclusion, and perhaps show more leadership in that area?
Of course.
Than others may have shown?
Of course. I'm certainly prepared to do that. I think that's what I was trying to get at earlier when I said that leadership is about more than the mechanics of government.
Right.
It's also about standing up for a set of principles and articulating a set of values. Now, sometimes there are actions that are within your direct authority. Other times they may not be. And you can deal with human relations where it's simply a matter of staking out a sense of how we should interact with each other, or sometimes it's a matter of state and national policy. And in those instances, regional leaders can have an impact. Just to use some counterexamples, we saw recently in New York State a very intense debates about the Women's Equality Act and about the New York SAFE Act that deals with gun safety measures. The New York SAFE Act passed narrowly. The Women's Equality Act was defeated narrowly. And I'm of the belief that when regional leaders, when county executives or mayors stand up and say, this is right or this is wrong, it does have a cumulative effect on the decision-making of people in the state Senate or the state Assembly, and even at a higher level of government than in the Congress and the Senate. Not that there's a direct influence, but a cumulative influence. And that's why it is important, I think, for people at every level of government to have the courage of their convictions and stand up for what they believe is right.
Noam, in the LGBT community, there are two ends of the spectrum, the age spectrum, where individuals within the community find themselves sometimes in not the best of situations. Our LGBT seniors require certain aspects and things that seniors within the straight community don't seem to need. A lot of times, seniors within the LGBT community are forced to go into the closet. Sometimes when they find themselves having to go into a home, they specifically need certain assistance to keep them out of poverty. On the other side of the spectrum, we have LGBT youth. Many times they are kicked out of the house. They too need services that the county needs to provide to make sure that they are caught, that they don't slip through the cracks. What would your administration do to make sure that poverty levels and the attention given to LGBT seniors and LGBT youth are put into effect so that they themselves, these individuals, are protected?
It's a great question, David, and you know better than I do that the statistics are very troubling. The disproportionate degree of homelessness, of substance abuse, of other social distress that impact particularly LGBT youngsters for just the reason that you offered. In many cases, there's not a degree of acceptance, of family support. Sometimes individuals who are having difficulty coming to grips with their own identity. And unless there's an understanding, nurturing, supportive environment, it can be enormously challenging. So I do not pretend that I'm an expert on all of these subjects. I recognize, not only here, but in other areas as well, that being in government or being a candidate is a learning experience, and you need to be open to those who know more than you do. So this is a great example of the way in which a really vibrant, vital relationship between the LGBT Advisory Board and the county executive could help inform policy making. And I would look forward to working with those who are more expert than me in order to figure out what steps we can take to make sure that everybody in Westchester is fairly and properly served. Thank you.
And often those steps could be easy to implement or perhaps come out of good brainstorming and creativity, right? And as mayor of New Rochelle, haven't you developed many programs that weren't costly and brought about significant change?
Absolutely. Very often it's just about knowledge, just about arming people with the information to do their jobs properly. And in most cases, folks who are engaged in these public services want to do their jobs well. It's not a matter of resistance, it's just execution. But knowing the right questions to ask, knowing the right information to impart is something that has to be done in a collaborative way. And you have to really believe in it. And I think that's the key.
I want to thank you so much for being with us and sharing with us about your views on the LGBT community and how the county can help with that. Is there anything else? Thank you, David. Is there anything else that you want to
I don't think so, only that it's been a pleasure being with you, and look forward to conversations of this kind in the future as well.
Great.
Thank you, Noam.
Thank you.